How do you respond to negativity in others? And how do you respond to the inevitable conflict that we all experience from time to time? Or, as some have put it, how do you manage to keep your calm, to keep your poise, to stay balanced and in integrity when you have to deal with what some have called emotional vampires? And that's our topic in today's lesson. In fact, I want to share with you 4 simple questions that you can use as tools to help resolve the conflict, stay on purpose, fulfill your mission, and be at peace. Hi, my name is Ken Coscia. I'm the author of the Trust Your Intuition Academy, as well as the lead instructor and international training director for the Silva Method. Today, in today's lesson, we want to talk about conflict. You know, it's really okay. In all my years, I've been doing this work, personal development and professional development, for now 45 years. I've had the great opportunity, and I'm blessed to have traveled to nearly 30 different nations, working with hundreds of thousands of people over the years, in a business setting, in the personal development setting with the public, in small groups of 10 to groups as large as 1,000 or more with them. And I have to say, regardless of where I find myself and what culture, as a people, it is inevitable when we are in relationship with coworkers, family, friends, anybody just about, clients, there's bound to be what? Some conflict, some disagreements, some things that we just don't meet eye to eye with. In addition to that, how about you? You may have some big dreams, some goals. And how many times have people surprised you by raining on your parade? Sometimes the very people who you would think would be in your corner, who would support you every step of the way, turn out to be a source of discouragement. I think we've all been there. It's not fun, it's not easy, and I don't claim to have all the answers, but I do have some solutions, some steps, some questions you can ask that you will find will help ease this. You know, I relate to this in my own way. Way back in 1971, when I first got involved in this field, it was new. I was psyched, I was motivated, I was inspired, it felt right. And yet, when I brought it home to my parents, who I thought would support me and encourage me, my mother immediately took out her rosary beads, turned white as a ghost, and started praying for me. And my father, well, when I asked for the tuition, the fees, his answer was a clear, blatant, no effing way. I'll always remember that. I mean no disrespect, I love them and I know they love me. And I wonder, have you had a similar experience, naysayers in your life? In talking with many thought leaders who have been around, I hear that this is a familiar concern. Often, participants will go into a program, get psyched, motivated, inspired, just wanting to change the world. They leave the seminar, they leave the program, bring it with love in their heart to their family, friends, coworkers, and sometimes only to find what? Discouragement, ridicule, maybe even some alienation. I know I went through the same myself. I had to learn the hard way to stop being a proselytizer. Well, what do you do in situations like that? And what can you do to prevent it from interfering in such a way that you get demotivated and give up? I admit it's no easy task, but there are, again, some solutions, some steps. So let's take a look at some of these questions and some of the things that you can do. So first thing I said was, it's important to recognize conflict is okay. We know psychologically, we now know in neuropsychology, let's face it, even the most fortunate of men and women will experience occasional setbacks. Even people in harmony, even a team who has worked hard together for years and have a great deal of experience together, will from time to time not see eye to eye. Sometimes it gets heated. Sometimes people get caught up in their emotions. You know how it is. I've worked in almost 30 different cultures across the globe. I deal with over 100 different countries, directors in various countries as the lead instructor and training director. And we don't always, there are differences in ways we view the world, in ways, our perspective. And what I can tell you is it is nearly mission impossible to avoid conflict. It's going to come up. It's not a bad thing. It's inevitable. Let me give you an example and a metaphor I like to use in my live trainings, whether I'm doing a workshop in a corporate setting, whether I'm working with the public, or in my Silva seminars. It's kind of like this bottle of club soda. If you put this over ice, it can be very refreshing, especially in the hot summer months. It can help prevent dehydration. If you add it to fruit juice, it can help the juice to dilute it, make it taste even better, or whatever your favorite beverage might be. And yet, it can be abused, it can be mishandled in such a way that this simple little beverage can become a nuisance, maybe even a difficulty. Ken, what do you mean? Well, I said conflict is inevitable. And yet, sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we're afraid to rock the boat. Perhaps it's someone you work with. Could be your boss, your supervisor. I've been working 45 years for myself. I'm self-employed. I do, however, have clients, students to answer to, and people who make the final decision with some of the policies in the organization that I choose to be a part of. So sometimes we get caught up in not wanting to, quote, jeopardize our position, jeopardize our career. And so what do? We're told, suck it up. And that's what it's like. Suck it up. Sometimes you may find yourself with your friend, a loved one, someone you really care about, and you don't want to hurt their feelings, and you're afraid to what? Tell them the truth. And we repress it. I can tell you all the science in neuropsychology or positive psychology. It is a dangerous accident waiting to happen when we repress our emotions, be they negative emotions or be they positive emotions. Sometimes we're afraid of losing business from our clients. Sometimes this happens to coaches. I find that a good coach will tell the truth. I find in my experience, what about you, that a good friend will tell you the truth. Because if they don't, what they're doing is repressing. Sometimes people have desires for ice cream, cheesecake, or whatever it might be that they're working to avoid. And I can tell you again, if we repress those desires, and that's what it's like. The answer is not repression. The answer is to transmute those desires to a higher function. The answer is to deal with it, because repression's not the answer. Never did work. It's an accident waiting to happen. Why is that? You can study energy medicine. You can study the energetics of it. And what it means basically, guys, is that when we repress, that energy has to go somewhere. It has to move. And it can lend to what? Distress in the body. And distress is the leading cause of health problems, illness, disease, and even poor performance, even failures in business, even making poor decisions. And distress is also a leading cause of blocking your inspiration, your intuitive insights that inevitably come. So, as an example, you see me shake this bottle, and maybe it's like you in your life. So here comes some unsuspecting person, and they take the bottle, right, or the can, the beverage. Sometimes people think it's funny, and they do this to unsuspecting people. And what would happen if you just opened it without knowing what took place before? I'm not going to do it, because it's going to make a big mess all over me. To experiment yourself. So what you need to do is be conscious of that and learn how to what? Gradually, easily, carefully release some of that pressure so it doesn't make a mess and get in the way and interfere. And that takes skill. And transformation, personal development, Any worthy ideal that you or I have takes time and takes a lot of effort, and it takes having the right training and education for that. So let's take a look at those questions and what can we do to cope more effectively? What can we do? What can you do to deal with the sometimes negativity we experience from others, the naysayers? Let me put the bottle down. And how can you maintain your emotional integrity? Emotional integrity means honoring yourself, being true to yourself, being true to your convictions, being true to who you are and what you stand for. And that's so essential. So if you're interested in making a difference and doing good and to prosper and build a business, this is essential, because invariably people will sense it whether you're there or not with that. So here are the questions. 4, and only 4. You ready? Now, I don't claim that these are the be-all and the end-all. They're not. And perhaps there are others who have said this and maybe said it better than I can. But I do know that I have used this. I have counseled so many others and coached so many others to use these questions. And if you use them skillfully, it'll make a big, huge difference in your ability to stay focused and manage those potential negative emotions. So here's the deal. Number one, can I help them? Ask yourself, if you're dealing with somebody who seems to be making a lot of mistakes, sabotaging themselves, can I help them is the question. You know, come on. That's an obvious answer. Nobody can help anybody unless they what? Ask for the help. If we give advice that's unsolicited, that hasn't been asked for, often people get defensive, often people resent it and don't listen. Boy, I know this one too well. I have 3 children. I've raised 3 children, put them through college. This is what I do. Doing this work is wonderful. And they're self-supporting and they're living a life of purpose. And here I am because I've made my share of mistakes. I've had so many lessons that I've learned to overcome. So naturally, as a father, I want them to benefit and to start where I left off. Doesn't quite work like that, does it? If you're a parent, you know what I mean. Even people who maybe you coach, they've got to ask for the help. They've got to want it. You can't do a thing. Even in therapeutic interventions, even in drug counseling, alcohol rehabilitation, the first step is people have to say, help me, I have a problem. I'm also trained and certified in hypnosis. And for a good many years, in addition to doing my Silva work, I was working with helping people manage their addictions. And I was notorious for asking people to leave. Because if they didn't want it, and if they were there for the wrong reasons, meaning somebody made them come, somebody urged them to come, I'm here because I love my wife and she said I have to come, or she's going to divorce me. Wrong answer. It's got to be a commitment that says, failure's not an option, help, I want to do this. So you can see it's not a very practical position to be in, is it? It's really tricky and thin ice, as they say, that we're skating on in that. Question number 2 to ask, can I fix them? I'm sure there are people in your life you care deeply about, maybe people you work with. It could be a business partner, it could be your spouse, it could be your children. It could be people you care about. A dear friend of mine just went through this with her sister. Sister was an alcoholic, and there was nothing she could say, think, or do to help her, and believe me, she made every effort. It was kind of sad and unfortunate. Again, you know as well as I do, and if you're involved in psychology, you understand this. Each of us has a responsibility to fix ourselves. It begins right here. Yes, we all need help. Yes, coaching helps. Yes, the right training is important. Yes, we need to do our research and homework, maybe read a book. All that's true. But nobody has the right to fix anybody else. Something I've made peace with myself in my life in this position is I've had to learn how to allow people, be there for them, offer assistance, and allow them to grow or not grow at their own pace. And it needs to be very skillfully done so as not to create defensiveness. Because if people go on the defense, they won't listen and you'll get nowhere. So, in my experience, perhaps yours too, not very practical, not very effective. Let's look at number 3 question. Can I live with it? Can I live with this situation? Listen again. Think of somebody who maybe you're in conflict with. Maybe somebody who keeps raining on your parade. Maybe it's a supervisor. Maybe it's a boss. Maybe it's the person who calls the shots, and they keep interfering in your livelihood, keep interfering with your decisions, and you feel like you're always watching your back. You feel like you've got to always be on guard. It's a tough spot to be in. I've been there myself. It's a horrible spot to be in. You got to ask, if this continues, can I live with this? I've heard some crazy statistics, and I'm wondering who makes up these statistics. 20 years ago, I heard that 50% of people hate their work. Really? Now I hear that it's much higher. I don't know where it comes from, who makes up these statistics, but boy, a lot of people do say they hate what they do. Frankly, I think that's misstated, and I think that's misrepresented, and it's not quite like that. Because we know psychologically, we know in neuropsychology that there's something called selective memory. And initially we have a love, we have a fondness, we're on purpose, mission for our work, for what we do, maybe even a relationship you're in. You know, the sun rises and sets on the person at first. And then we get real, we make a commitment, we live with each other. We're now on that job, that work. And what invariably happens is, unfortunately, if we're not careful, some people what? Take each other for granted. And now those little things that never used to bother us annoy the heck out of us, right? The way they brush their teeth, what they do or don't do, the mess they leave, or maybe the way they do their work. That's what I mean by selective memory. Because we know in principle, the science is whatever we give attention to, we give energy to. And whatever we give energy to will what? Grow and multiply. So we got to be careful, because if we're giving all of our attention to what we don't like about someone, if we give all of our attention to what we don't like about our work, let's face it, no matter how much you love your work, there are some aspects of it that are not your thing. There are some aspects that maybe you don't enjoy so much. Delegate it. Find someone who can. And if you're not in a position to delegate it or hire someone to handle it for you, then keep focused on your big why. Why do you do what you do? Why is it important? What are the things you love about it? Reconnect with that. Stay in touch with that feeling. What is it about your partner that you initially loved and admired, or your business partner? You see, it really doesn't matter, because we're always in relationship with people. Keep that in mind. Can you live with it? So sometimes you do get to the point where you're not able to. And if that's true, and you've asked for help, you've got coaching, you're looking for, training, you're doing everything you can, and it's getting worse, then is it worth it? Because if this continues, it'll be disheartening, you'll be demotivated, and you'll find yourself distracting yourself with mindless TV, distracting yourself with alcohol, drug abuse, or constant mindless shopping, because you're not happy. You'll find yourself not performing at your best, dreading it, and maybe even getting sick, because the distress of that emotion, fact, all the science behind it shows that it begins with a thought. Our thoughts are a catalyst to our feelings, our emotions, and those emotions cause the brain to release neuropeptides. And those neuropeptides have been called the chemical messengers of the brain. And those chemical messengers affect our physiology, affect how we feel, affect our cognition, our ability to think with the higher functions, affect our digestion, affect whether we're tight, and it'll affect if you're a singer, your voice. If you're a musician, it'll affect your movements. If you're an athlete, it'll affect whether you get injured or not, how you perform. If you're in sales, it'll affect the tone of your voice. It affects everything, your physiology. And that, of course, affects the outcome, how well you do what you do, and whether you succeed and get what you want. So thought is a catalyst to what? Your emotions, your feelings, which affects your physiology, which will affect the outcome. So you've got to manage your thoughts. And we know from all the studies, even current studies in psychology, it's called the point of power, that your perception, the way you perceive, the way you manage, the value you give, and the way you interpret life's challenges is the sole determinant, for reasons I just described, to your success, what you get or don't get from it. So this question, can you live with it, may mean that sometimes you're going to have to what? Burn the bridges, cut off your ties. It's not easy, I agree. It's hard. Personally, I think too many people give up too easily. That's my personal viewpoint. Excuse me, you may think I'm whatever you might think about that. I've had so many friends who I meet, or people, they've been from one relationship to another, one marriage to another. I'm still with the same woman. We've been together since the fall of 72. We've been married this year 38 years. Has it been a piece of cake? No. Is it wonderful? Yes. Is she my best friend? Yes. Have we brought in wonderful children to the world? Yes. Do we have to work on it? Yes. Constantly. You know that. Anyone will tell you. It takes a lot of effort, and it's worth it. So this, can I live with it, is very challenging, and I don't mean to make light of it. It's going to take some real tough introspection. So let's look at the last question, number 4, the most effective, the most practical, and the one I most highly recommend that you find yourself best able to deal with, and the one you have the most control. So you ready for it? You ready? Here it goes. And maybe you guessed. Question number 4 to ask yourself when you're in conflict with someone, when you're responding to negativity with others, when you're dealing with some of life's challenges. Can I change me? That's right. You probably guessed. Can I change me? Or how can I turn this around? How can I change, or what can I do to change me so that I fit better in this situation, with this person, in what I have to deal with? What are some of the strategies or changes or things I need to do? Maybe it is delegating. Maybe it is hiring a team. Maybe it is getting coaching. Maybe it is attending a business training. Maybe it is reading, doing some research. Whatever it is, if you're committed to your project, to your dream, failure, if you're truly committed, failure is not an option. Then we do whatever it takes. So that question I find, what can I do to change me so that I fit more effectively? And if you find after a valiant effort you're not able to, I wouldn't give up, but maybe that's part of the message that it's time to move on and do something different. I know, letting go is not always easy. Sometimes it's what has to be done. So I really hope that you find this helpful. So remember the 4 questions. Number 1, can I help them? Number 2, can I fix them? Number 3, can I live with it? And number 4, the most effective, most practical, can I change me to adapt better to this situation and make it work so it's a win-win for everybody? Again, I hope use this, guys. Work with it. Review the video. And may I say, I've really appreciated you listening. Thank you. If you're resonating with me, you're finding this material helpful, I'd be thrilled. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please go onto my Facebook page and like it, because I'm constantly, every day, posting inspirational quotes, current research. I'm constantly looking at what's going on, research, innovations, things that I find inspire me. Life is really, this is an incredible time to be alive. There's so many good things. All we hear in the news is all the bad crap. There are some wonderful breakthroughs that are changing and helping us to change and improve the quality of our lives. And I'd be honored to serve as one of the people sharing with you this information. If you want to get announcements, special offers, things that are available, you can opt in, just sign up for my email list. I'll be happy. So look below. If you're on YouTube, you find information. If you're looking on Facebook, there'll be information there. My name's here. Look it up. Be happy. So again, thanks very much. And remember this. You are far more than what you appear to be. You are far, far more than what you give yourself credit. I see this time and again. In fact, you are better. You have the capacity. You have the tools. I'm not going to say, oh, you can do anything you want. I don't know that I agree with that. But you do, with the right training and the information, the research, can make a substantial difference for yourself, for others, for all of us, and for your life. Thanks again.